Yeah.
Okay, guys, this is Mr. Brian here.
And I'm
How are you?
Gabriel.
Yeah, Gabriel here. Um, he's a really moving encyclopedia for his age. Really moving encyclopedia. By the way, did you tell these guys how old you are?
Yeah, I'm 14, but people think I'm in my 20s or 30s
Wow.
because of how I speak.
Well, you could pass for, a person who has been handling all these issues a long time, and that's very good. Very
I've
good to have
been,
knowledge around you.
the thing is, the reason I speak this way is because I've been studying politics, history, economics, and philosophy since I was basically 7 years old.
Okay. So today we are looking at leadership in relation to the American Revolution and the French Revolution. And my first question to you, Gabriel, is what makes a good leader?
Oh, well, basically, as I've told you before, a good leader is basically a statesman.
Statesman.
The problem with us, with this generation, is that we only have politicians that think about the next elections. While back then, we had statesmen who thought about the next generation. And what I'm basically going to be talking about is that you have Mitterrand who formed how do I say this? He formed the European Community for coal and steel, which basically led to the formation of the European Union. He was a pivotal member in that. And then we also have Franklin Delano Roosevelt and his efforts in World War II. He was a great mastermind. He managed to get he managed. Okay, what he did is that with Lend-Lease basically sending equipment to the United Kingdom, and they would pay it back later, but this is war, man. So they didn't have the funds to pay back American equipment. So yeah, he basically had to put in Lend-Lease.
So you're basically saying that a good leader is a statesman, and then if a good leader would be a statesman, somebody told me the will to create power is if you have power and will, then you create. So that means that if you have the will in you, then you create something. So that becomes power. Okay. Now, how would you say power is different from leadership?
Power is different from leadership. Well, basically, how I separate these two, leadership, but these two can go are interconnected.
Okay.
Basically, power. Let me start with power. Power is what is vested in you, what you have gained through. Let's say for example, you do a coup. Now all of a sudden, you're the leader of a country. Now you can do whatever you want with that power. Actually, what I say about power is that it is very big, like
Broad.
broad. I mean,
Okay. So now that we've talked about
and then leadership is basically when, yeah, you know how to lead. You know how to. Let me say this. You know yourself and you know the people of your country. You know, and with that in mind, you may not fear the circumstances and situations that will come before you, because now you know how to deal with them. There's so many great leaders there are so many great leaders that have come before us, such as Julius Caesar, Augustus, Napoleon, FDR, Bismarck, many.
many. Okay. And so what makes the qualities of a good leader? Just give me about three.
The qualities of a good leader. But okay, I'm going to talk about a leader. I consider a leader very different from a despot. A despot is basically a tyrant who often enacts oppressive policies just to maintain power.
Okay.
And okay, a leader is basically serves the people, not the state and himself.
That a good one.
Yes,
Okay.
serves the people and not the state and
So he's
himself.
selfless.
Yes.
Very good. Number two, what else would you think is a good leader?
What else I think is a good leader? Basically, yeah. This one is a thing. Very many. It might seem very, very trivial, but leaders must be educated. I know very many leaders in our world, in our modern day, that have not gone to primary school or kindergarten, for that matter. And they're the ones determining the lives of millions and messing up the countries they're in.
So there is no room for ignorance in leadership. You have to be learned. At least.
There's room for ignorance, but it doesn't have to be, the gap doesn't have to be so wide that you how do I say this without sounding like
Radical.
and too like rash. How I have to say this is that, yeah, you can go from a leader to someone who doesn't even know what he's doing. Like I'll give an example like Salva Kiir. I am older than South Sudan, by the way, but this man has somehow managed to transform that country into a failed state, a fourth world country, and put it into us. And okay, he isn't the direct cause of a civil war, but the way he is handling this country and with the corruption and the war crimes he's committing.
So you're saying your number two, you're saying a good leader should be informed.
Informed, yeah.
Okay, that's good. Three.
Three is basically, yeah. I'm trying to think of three because I've only thought of two, the first two. Three, what should it be? It should be basically what a leader should do. This is only for religious leaders.
Yes.
First of all, put God before anything.
Thank you so much.
This only counts. It only helps if the country is religious. But if it's like atheistic, like sort of like the United States,
still they swear and say, so God bless America.
God bless America, but America isn't explicitly Christian because, let me say this, in the founding of America, the founding fathers explicitly stated that they wanted to separate religion and state from each other. They did not want the church governing the affairs of the government.
Yeah, like it was in the past where you had the nobility, the clergy, the nobility and the rest of it. So they wanted to separate the state. Okay, those are the three. Thank you. Then, what makes a leader effective?
Effective? Well, there are very many kinds of leaders you could talk about. Let me start with a military leader. Just for a military leader to even be decent, let's say that they only have to read Sun Tzu, The Art of War, and they can just be decent. Even Napoleon
every leader has read Sun Tzu, The Art of War, and
every military leader, yes.
I mean, every strategist, not even military, but every strategist should. Guys, you should look out for that book. It applies to economics, politics, war. It's a simple read, but very effective. Okay, so you're talking about yes, how effective the leader should be.
Yeah. So basically, what you see in a military leader, what you must know in a military leader is that logistics. They understand that logistics wins wars, not just sheer manpower and technological advantage. So basically, what is logistics? This is basically how your men and equipment and material get to the front line.
Okay. Let me take this away. You're saying that an effective leader should be a good strategist.
He understands logistics, like someone who just simply understanding how logistics works.
Yes.
You are already a step ahead most military leaders.
Exactly. Okay. And then that's very good. Then what makes a leader dangerous?
Oh no, I haven't gone to political leaders yet.
Oh yes.
So for a political leader, basically, what did you say? Good or effective?
Effective. You know, there's a big difference.
There's a big difference. So basically, now that you have said effective, I have understood now. Now, an effective leader is basically someone like Joseph Stalin, the man of steel himself, the man with one of the best historical mustaches.
He loved to roll them and soothe them.
Yeah. He is one of the greatest political masterminds and manipulators to date. Like, for example, during the Great Purge, even though it did most of the competent political and military leaders of the Soviet Union were removed from their positions and executed or sent to Siberia, that consolidated his power. No one was guaranteed to just coup him and take over the Soviet Union.
Okay. Then you've explained the character from there. So you're saying he was effective because
he was a great. How do I say this? It comes from his even his nickname, even his name himself says it. He's the man of steel. He does not, because let me say this. He has earned that name through the blood of his victims. He fought Nazi Germany itself, and what he did, he organized the Soviet Union, and for him and for the motherland. And essentially, what he did after that, he rallied the people behind his cause, because no one wanted Hitler to be in control of the Soviet Union. Stalin knew that very well, so he exploited that. He knew that the Soviet people, the Ukrainians, the Belarusians, the Estonians, the Russians, did not want to be under stinky fascist leadership that would basically genocide them all day long.
Oh, so you're saying that an effective leader rallies people power.
Yes, and especially in wartime when their
time of need,
where their power is at stake.
Okay, then who is a dangerous?
He was great at propaganda as well. That's what I have to say.
Oh, yes, so the Soviets were. Who is a dangerous leader? Just briefly, very briefly there.
Again, Stalin and then Napoleon himself. When you have a leader that is against the that is against the conservative norms of the world of today, that is a leader who can change systems and generations for decades and centuries to come.
Okay. Now let's zero in on that was we're giving you a whole bigger picture, but we are zeroing in what we're focusing on. So tell me how effective George Washington was. After giving me a brief background of George
Washington was basically a former British officer and American general. He's currently dead, yeah. He served during the American Revolutionary War,
yes,
and the 7 Years' War. And during both of those wars, he would demonstrate his incredible military prowess and techniques, earning him victories at the Battle of Trenton, Boston, and Yorktown.
And don't forget the Icy River.
Yeah, he crossed the Delaware and surprised the Hessian mercenaries and crushed them at Trenton.
Okay. How? Okay, that's the background, and then how effective was he with all that background?
Initially, during the American Revolutionary War, George Washington was just the thing that limited him, that stopped him from being really like someone like, let's say, close to Caesar or Napoleon, is that he was fighting with an army that was poorly trained, under-equipped, lacked cannons, had poor communication lines, and was constantly under sabotage from British loyalists. That was what hindered him in his campaigns during the American Revolutionary War. Not just him, but with generals like Benedict Arnold, Sullivan, anyone really that was an American general during the Revolutionary War.
So you're saying he took many risks. An effective leader takes risks like George did.
George Washington was a leader that took so many risks. If he was cautious, really cautious, like I'm just going to reference a general who was in the American Civil War, which was decades later. Basically, you have George McClellan. This guy was very, very cautious. Even when he outnumbered the Confederates, he would not be willing to take the initiative and maneuver. That was what cost him, and he would suffer many defeats. George Washington was a man of risks. Risk was his name. It was on his back, labeled on his back.
And I want to compliment that by saying that while a leader can take risks, they should also work with minimum. They should have cool pressure. Understand.
They have to understand the battlefield before they
the
engage.
situation of the people. Okay, and then another thing is they have to keep the people united. George really tried. George Washington trying to keep his people united and loved peace.
George Washington, he is both a great statesman and a military mastermind, because he had to manage the war effort as being commander-in-chief of the armed forces, while on the other hand had to rally the American revolutionaries behind his cause, while dealing with the British loyalists that were constantly hindering his military campaigns and political motives.
So he led by example.
Basically, yes.
So one of the lessons we take away from him is that he led by example. Okay, then tell me about the French Revolution leader.
Robespierre.
Yes, very briefly, a very small background, and then tell me how that gentleman contrasts. How does he contrast George Washington? How do they go different in a way?
How do they go different? So basically,
first give me the background, then.
Okay, so I'll start from Robespierre.
Yes.
So, yeah, I'll give a brief background. He came from the Third Estate, which was basically like it was a part of the kind of Parliament of France at the time.
Yes.
So there's a First Estate, the Second Estate. First Estate had the clergy, Second Estate had the nobility, and then the Third Estate was basically the poor, the middle class, basically everyone else.
Yes.
The damned, everyone.
And then there is the Fourth Estate, which is usually the media, the gossip, everyone. Okay, that fuels war. But anyway,
So yeah, Robespierre, he had very radical ideas, and he was a part of the radical faction of the Third Estate that wanted the complete overthrowing of King Louis. Who was he again? The 16th.
Yes, the 16th.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's basically the background of him.
So how does he contrast George Washington?
George Washington was a military mastermind. And political. Everyone loved him after his military campaigns.
True.
So that's how he basically gained his political fame.
And so to me,
Mainly, yeah.
While the one was militaristic, The other one was
more political.
Yes, more political, and was a charismatic speaker.
But the thing with Robespierre, he was less of a political mastermind and more of just a radical, a hot-headed radical. That's the thing
He
with
was uncompromising. Just say, use the word. He was uncompromising with, he was uncompromising with lots of things.
the
okay?
thing that's really.
And also believed in people power.
But the thing is, his people power came with a cost. Anyone who didn't believe in the French Revolution and its ideals, to the guillotine, boom, chop,
Head off.
head off, and then again, the thing that's really something really stupid that he did, even though his power wasn't fully consolidated within the government itself, he decided to eliminate those closest to him, those who were giving him his powers, like George Danton, for example.
Okay, given the circumstances that happen in the aftermath of these revolutions, look at the other part where you have a leader taking charge of a revolution poorly. What are the outcomes?
Yes. The thing with Robespierre is that you can,
No, like generally, both men.
yeah,
If one took leader and put it in context of what we have now, if there was, there is this belief that I think it's one of these French guys who are saying during that time, saying that you never understand a revolutionary leader at birth. Now, what if you have a poor revolutionary leader? What do you think happens?
what happens when you have a poor revolutionary leader? Now, I'll start with Robespierre. This guy, it depends on your political views, honestly. If you're a radical Jacobin, you'd see him as a great mastermind who overthrew the French monarchy and gave birth to the liberal ideals we know today and love. But if you're a moderate or apolitical, you just see him as some hot-headed, highly tempered guy who just killed a lot of people and formed his own cult.
Can a leader be
Like, he formed this, like, viewers, I have to say, this guy is something else. He genuinely formed his own cult of reason.
Why would you call it cult of reason?
That's what it was
You know
called.
what a cult means?
It was because that
It's a
was,
strong belief.
that's the thing. I am not exaggerating. He formed his own cult, and this guy was so full of himself at times that he genuinely believed he was a god.
Oh, a demigod.
Yes.
Okay. Guys, that's his view. That's his view. How can a leader be strong, but again unfair?
Because when you have to be a strong leader, like Socrates in his view of democracy said, a strong leader often has harsh setbacks. Like, for example, what Socrates said is that, well, I'll give a similar example to what he was talking about. So there would be a candy man and there would be a doctor. The candy man would promise sweets and give people a lot of tasty foods for them to enjoy. And the candy man would tell people that the doctor mistreats them and gives them medicines that damage them and ruin their health, I mean. And the doctor would say, yes, I agree. I do give you medicines that do harm your health at times. Or at least, yeah, something like that. But he does it for the sake, to improve their overall well-being and health in the long run.
So, putting all, yes, I've understood.
So being a strong leader often comes with harsh compromises, because if you're just a moderate, decent guy, and your country is at the risk of, and your country is like, let's say, going through its own crisis like civil unrest, civil war, you need a strong leader. You can't just have someone who's, let's say, weak or just decent at that. You need someone who can take charge and and bring reform or new ideas that will change the country for decades and centuries to come. That is what a
Leave
good
a legacy.
statesman. Yes, a good statesman
That's
is.
a legacy.
Yes.
What do you, when you put all both revolutions together? What really caught you that was an outcome in all of them?
Both of them.
What outcomes came out for you most?
When I put those revolutions together. First of all, those two revolutions are what really sparked liberalism, freedom and democracy and the rights of man into the world. Without both the French and American revolutions, this world would be drastically different. Most of us would probably still be living under monarchies or dictatorships or autocracies.
Okay, so there were
Those
very
revolutions,
pragmatic-
those revolutions were what sparked the 1848 revolutions, what birthed republics and federal systems. Those are what birthed our bureaucracies of today. Without them, this world, again, it would be drastically different. They would upset the history so drastically that it really changed everything.
the scale.
That the political
the
historical landscape
Yes.
for eons to come, basically.
According to you, what is the most important leadership lesson that you pick? The most outstanding leadership lesson?
The most outstanding leadership lesson. Honestly, what I pick is that, again, just know logistics. But again, if you know the structure of your country's, I'll start as a military leader. I'm starting as a military leader, if you can't tell, by the way. Okay, so basically, you have to know how your country's military functions and what your neighbors have in store. You basically have to keep in mind, will your neighbors intervene? Will they support your cause? Etc., etc. With that in mind, and you know the structure of your military, as Sun Tzu, by the way, said himself, if you know the enemy and you know yourself, you may not fear the outcome of 100 or 1,000 battles. That is the main thing you have to keep in mind in your military campaigns.
Okay, and you're looking at it from a military side only, but you know, leadership applies
to politics.
Politics, economics, everything. You know, even soccer has militaristic approaches. You know, you have
if you have heard of the football
attack, you have all these things. Okay, you have attack, you have wings. From every side.
That's the thing. Every
strategy.
Everything. What he's trying to say here, dear viewer, is that every single type of leadership, economic, political, social, and military, they are all interconnected. Without one of them, if one of them is basically going to the dirt, to the dumpster fire, then basically a country will very much struggle, whether internally or externally.
Okay, guys. Well, I think we could call it a wrap.
Yeah, this is basically, we're going into a somewhat deep analysis into this.
Any closing remarks as we go?
For future leaders out there, it doesn't matter what you have done beforehand, or basically what others think of you, what your enemies think of you. Your will and character is what matters most. If you know yourself and you know how your country is, and you know how these institutions and systems of ours function, I know you're gonna be some great mastermind or strategist of our generation.
Thank you. We shall be coming back with another segment. Thank you for watching. Stay tuned. Subscribe and like. Yep. God bless. Yep.
And comment for the algorithm. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this.